So guys, we had a major leak today that talked about the Terminator, the BMPT and the BMPT-72. So I wanted to do a video about what should you expect from these vehicles. Not a lot of people know them. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about them, the armor, the missiles, the guns, everything, right? But before we get to that, a lot of people have been asking, where do you actually join the Discord that I get the leaks from? The link is in the description, okay, guys? I partnered up with them, and the link is in the description. You can go out there, get special roles to talk to me personally there as well, and see the leaks, see the data mines, everything. So links is in the description. But let's talk about the BMPT. So, instead of actually just talking about this stuff and trying to find pictures and stuff, I will leave pictures, obviously, but we're going to try to show in the game. Why is that? Because we have all of these systems in the game. Yes, the BMPT, technically, everything that vehicle has is in the game, which makes actually it will be very easy to actually show to you how it will actually be, what you should expect from the vehicle. So we have two models, okay, guys? The BMPT and the BMPT-72. First of all, let's talk about the BMPT. The objective was to make a heavier IFV. So if you actually look into the Russian tech tree here, the Soviet tech tree, you will see that you have stuff like the BMP-2, right? But these are more armored personnel carriers, and even stuff like the BMP-3 over here, they are very lightly armored, and they can be killed very easily, right? So the objective was to actually present the infantry with a very heavy armored vehicle, but with the same type of armament that something like a BMP has, okay? So that's why they actually brought up the T90 chassis on this vehicle. So what you see here, the T90, it is what is actually going to be like with the chassis, right? A very similar armor to the one in the T90, right? So very similar internally, of course. Ignore the turret because the turret is completely different, but the chassis itself is very similar. Although they did change eventually all the ideas of using Contact 5 like this to actually use Relic, right? Which is the one that, for example, it is used on the on parts. Yeah, there you go. On parts of the T72 here, or even the T90. So when you actually look at the T90M, right? So when you actually look on the photos that you see out there of these vehicles, you will see that it looks very similar for when you actually remove the extra armor for the T90M over here. You will see that a lot of the BMPTs, especially the 72 one that we're going to talk about later, has a very similar layout to Relicate around the vehicle over here like this. So this is more or less the armor that you should expect from the BMPT. So it's kind of a high BR if you ask me, right? Because it will have a pretty good armor package on the actual chassis. Of course, because of that, it has a very similar engine as well. It's the 92S2 as well. I'm pretty sure it's not this version that the T90 has here, but it's a 1000 horsepower one. So it's very, I think it's the same as this one. So yeah, it's this one, the V92S2, right? So it will have the main problem that these Russian tanks have, 4 kilometers per hour of a reverse speed. So the chassis is going to be basically the same as the T90A over here, but with Relicate, apparently. Let's wait to see how Gaijin adds, but yeah, that's kind of how it is going to be. Same, almost the same mobility, almost the same everything on the regards of the chassis. So you will notice over here, for example, that you can see that you have somewhat of a Contact 5 slash, it's the Contact 5, if I'm not mistaken. This is the Relicate, I think, if I'm not mistaken. ERA, right? But you can see that it has pretty much the same layout of a T90, right? You can see it will still be a weak spot, lower glacis, and of course, because of the way that it works, it will be a little bit different and a little bit weaker on the front over here because of this part over here that you have the side systems and everything. Because of course, if it was a T90, it would have the turret over here, but it has this kind of upper part over here. So I would assume this has less armor, but overall, it is very similar here, right? And overall, guys, if I'm not mistaken, according to the sources, this thing has some different systems from the T90. So for example, it has a 5 crew layout, if I'm not mistaken. So I would assume that one is in the turret here, one in the turret here, one of them here maybe, and then the driver, basically seated like right here, right? And yeah, this is kind of the layout that he has. As you can see here, guys, you have some very similar systems that you have in some helicopters and other T-90s and stuff, which is the laser warning system. Yes, this thing has a laser warning systems for defense, and it is one of those things that I talked about in another video, guys, that would have an automatic deployment of smoke depending on where the laser is coming from. So yeah, that would be something cool to add to the game. They don't add. We don't have that in the Ramsago and some other tanks that have it as well. So yeah, it probably won't be added. But in real life, this thing has a very similar system to that. It has a laser warning, and once it detects something that is coming towards you that uses a laser or something, it will deploy the smoke, okay? So these are the defense systems. Nothing too fancy, although this is a pretty fancy system, but overall, that would be it. So 4 kilometers per hour reverse speed, most likely, and of course, 1,000 horsepower, and this is the layout of the chassis, okay? And then we need to talk about this thing, the turret. As you can see, you have right there 2 cannons, you have 4 ATGMs, and in some cases here, you normally would have grenade launchers as well and machine guns, okay? Depending on version, depending on many things. So what are those cannons, those systems, right? Well, guys, the cannons are the exact same cannon as the BMP-2. So you have two A42 cannons. So you can expect the same rounds, basically, right? APDS over here, just like something like this, right? Which is a pretty good cannon. Guys, this thing, you have no idea how good this cannon is. Want to know? Let me actually show to you guys. So this is the same cannon as it is used on the Russian helicopters, the Mi-28, the K-52, K-50, and it is a gun, guys, that has a pretty amazing range, actually. It is pretty interesting. Let me just rotate the vehicle over here for you. And yeah, as you can see, guys, you can heat up targets at up to like 5 kilometers more or less. And yeah, look at this. It has an amazing range. Of course, at these kind of aspects of a shot, it will not penetrate, it spreads around, but you can see how much energy this cannon has to be able to hit a target at more than 4 or 5 kilometers. So it's pretty insane how much these cannons can do. And of course, with the penetration that they have, it's gonna be quite insane because these cannons are pretty amazing. It has a very good penetration. And guys, remember, the BMP-2M, which uses the same cannon, has an APF SDS. So I don't know if the BMPT would actually use it. It depends on the on many things, but mainly Gaijin wanting to add. But if it does use the APF SDS, yeah, it will be amazing. So it has 2 cannons, 2 BMP-2 cannons like this. So amazing, right? And then you have even the grenade launcher, the same, pretty much the same grenade launcher. I mean, it is the exact same, but there's another version that it's used sometimes here, of the grenade launcher as well with the BMP-2M over here, the AG-30. So apparently it has 2 of them. So yeah, but still it is a pretty interesting thing, right? And what about those missiles, guys? Well, the missiles are pretty interesting as well. It is the same missile as it is used in some helicopters of the Russians. The Ataka, yes, they use the Ataka ATGM, which is very, very, very insane. This is a pretty good ATGM, guys. It is, of course, not the greatest ATGM for a helicopter in the higher tiers, because there are better versions like the Chrysanthema, you have the Vikir and other versions, but in a general sense, for tanks, it is pretty amazing because it has 6 kilometers of range. You don't need this much, but yeah. And it has a 550 meters per second maximum speed, which is pretty great for a tank. It has a heat round, a heat warhead, right, with Tunding, and also 800 millimeters. So it might not be the greatest ATGM ever, but it is pretty amazing. It is the same one as it is used in some of these helicopters. So you're going to have not only those cannons, but you're going to have the Ataka, which is pretty amazing, grenade launchers and everything with that. So it is a pretty, like a very interesting vehicle. With this amount of millimeters of penetration and stuff, and with the cannon that he has, the armor that he has, if you take a look on some of the other vehicles, I would assume that it is going to be a 10.0, 10.3, maybe a little bit higher because of the arbor, 10.7 maybe, or something like that. Maybe even 11.0, but I wouldn't see this thing on a top tier. And where it will come? Well, probably below the Chrysanthema, I would assume, right? Because it's, you know, the evolution basically of the line over here, right? It would make sense. But we didn't talk about everything yet. We have also this, which is the BMPT 72, guys. This is the export model of the BMPT. And what is the main difference? Well, notice how the chassis changes a bit. It's very similar, but it will be a little bit different. That's why, because they actually use a different chassis. They use a T72 chassis instead of the T90 chassis, okay? So you can see the visors and everything there completely changed over here. You don't have these secondary like places for people over here. So pretty much just has 3 crew members, right, instead of the 5. So it doesn't have these 2 side ones that the other one had. But everything else is pretty much the same, apart from not having 2 extra, like the 2 extra grenade launchers that the other one has, right? The missiles are pretty much the same. The guns are the same. Everything's pretty much the same apart from these changes that I talked about, okay? So imagine the same vehicle that I talked about, same gun, you know, the same missiles, everything, but with the main difference that the chassis is different and the layout here is different, right? So you will see something more akin to the T-72B3, more or less, right? In terms of protection. Of course, apparently the idea was to upgrade and change T-72s that were already produced by, since it's an export model, by other nations or for other nations, right? So you would pick, like, for example, a T-72M, that it's an exported model of the T-72, and then upgrade it with relic kit and everything with that, and even T-72Bs like this, and upgrade it with relic kit and stuff, and change the turret. So it's kind of a heavy upgrade to vehicles that were already produced as well, okay? So this is it, guys. This is the BMPT. It's the Terminator, as it is called. It is a pretty strong vehicle, but of course, it has its limitations. The objective of this vehicle, guys, it is to be an anti-infantry vehicle, okay? Although, obviously, it does have the ATGMs. Even the ATGMs have thermobaric ammunitions, just like the BMP-2M, for example. So, in a general perspective, it is a vehicle that is more made to destroy units of infantry, right? And also, obviously, it can do some anti-tank, but it's not going to be as good as an MBT. So that's why I think it's going to be a lower BR as well. The leak is saying we don't know yet, because the leak might be wrong. We don't know anything. You know, this is just, you know, my opinion on these vehicles. But if we get the BMPT, and the leaks are saying that we're going to get 2 of them, the BMPT-72, like the leak says, probably would be the winter event one. And then the original one, the older one like this, would be the Tech 3 one. That's what I think it will be, and it would make sense because the event is for export. This one is more for domestic use for the Russians. So, yeah, let's see how it is. It's going to be very interesting. Hopefully, the leaks are correct. We need to wait to see, but yeah, hopefully. And yeah, guys, I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. Join the Discord down in the description. And yeah, bye, guys. See ya. Become a member and a patron if you want to help the channel. Bye.